In this video, I'm going to share a simple practice that I've implemented lately that has really had a profound effect on my moment to moment experience. The way that I've been approaching this practice is just simply noting the things that I'm doing and why I'm doing them. In those little unconscious moments throughout the day, reaching for the phone or deciding to grab something from the kitchen or respond in a certain way, really taking account and inventory of all these little decisions and taking a moment to kind of inquire into why am I doing that? Like, where is that coming from? And there's a really powerful concept or method that they talk about in Buddhism where there's 12 links of your experience. This was essentially the goal of the Buddha, was to end suffering in life, to not necessarily transcend into a whole new realm, but to be here on earth in the human experience and be free from the struggle and the suffering. The first six links are completely out of our control, right? There's reality happening as it is. Okay, so life is happening, it is the way that it is, and there's nothing we can do about that. And then there is our idea about it. It is this attribute that we've assigned it, and it's not inherent in reality. We have created that. Okay, so that's the seventh link. The eighth link is then craving. And this link of craving is a natural symptom of giving significance or meaning to the moment as it is, and therefore wanting to either have it or avoid it. That's the craving. So then what happens is the ninth link, which is clinging, because we've recognized something that we want, we move towards it or move away from it, and then we have this holding on to it. Because between experiencing it and relating to it, craving it, pulling it in, or pushing it away, there's this sort of identification process which starts to happen. So there's a couple of particularly important points here. The first being there is this unconscious response to what's happening, right? It's instinctual, it's so conditioned. We're not consciously choosing for it. And then there's this more subtle reinforcing of this pattern as we continually unconsciously choose for things. And the reason why this is significant is because the more identified with it we become, the more difficult it is, seemingly, to let go of it or overcome it. If I reach for my phone, there's maybe something good in there that I will find. It's that classic dopamine hit, which is going to make me feel good. Or maybe there's something that I might be missing out on. So I'm going to move to that unconsciously. But it's not a truly creative or inspired action to take. It's a habitual unconscious action to take. And because there's that underlying motivator that I might get something out of it, that's where the craving kicks in, because I'm already defining this activity of maybe reaching for my phone to have a possible positive outcome, that I'm then craving it. And then through the experience of having certain positive outcomes, there's a clinging to it, because the more I've experienced my preference, or the more I've been able to avoid something that I've not wanted, the more identified with that habit I become, the more of an addiction it becomes. And what I've noticed is that in those moments of reaching for the phone, it's not necessarily about cutting that habit out as a sort of discipline, but it's really about understanding where that's coming from, like why I'm doing that to begin with. And that's where that slowing down has been so helpful for me, to not necessarily cut it out, but to interrupt that mental activity which is going on, which is actually the motivator behind the behavior, and to see where that's actually coming out of to begin with. And all of this can be really distilled into alignment, because on one side of alignment, you have alignment with your true self, which is a pure recognition of what is, without relationship to it, without interpretation of it, but purely a recognition of it as it is. And the other side of alignment is the identification, the understanding, and the integration of the resistance to that natural state of flow and presence with life as it is, which is a reconciliation of our inner landscape. So, the whole point of this is really freeing ourselves up. It's not about not having preferences, it's not about cutting out all these things that we call bad habits. It's simply about bringing awareness to all that we're doing, all that we're experiencing, and being free in that moment to experience it as it is, rather than the story that we tell about it. And in that kind of a relationship with what is, there's freedom.